I'm Insomniac. Welcome back, also known as Sam, Sammy J, Sammy Jane, whatever you want to call me. So, as promised, I'm back again. It is now Wednesday should have checked this first, 30th of March. Wow, we're at the end of the month already. Crazy fast it's gone. So, I did have my blood test this morning. It was horrible because my endocrinologist actually called me yesterday afternoon and said, once I go to bed, if I wake up in the night, don't drink anything. So like my last drink will be at bedtime and nothing else until after the blood test is done. So that was really, really tough, terribly tough on me. I felt I was getting like sort of twisting stomach cramps and really bad headaches. My mouth was so dry. It was awful. But anyhow, luckily I had a really early appointment, 7 AM. So, yep. And I bought a bottle of water with me and also a little banana cake. Or banana bread, not sure what it's really called. It's a little loaf cake type thing, and that was really nice. So yeah, my endocrinologist said that she wants to send me for further testing. So we are going to have, let's see, she said she's going to send me appointments through for, if I can find it, the water deprivation test, which pretty much means I'm not sure if you're allowed to eat or drink anything at all the morning of the appointment, but it's all done up at the hospital. So from what I've read, you're allowed a very light breakfast, say toast, at around 6:30 in the morning. I think you may be allowed some water with it, but then nothing. You get to the hospital for 8 o'clock in the morning, and then they put a cannula in, or some type of cannula, so that they can take your bloods every 2 hours for the first 8 hours of the test. So every 2 hours they'll just hopefully be able to take the blood from the cannula. That would be great if they could. I hope that information's still current. So they'll do that, and every hour, I believe, they take you to empty your bladder and weigh you, because apparently, if I've read different things, I'm not a medical expert at all, I don't claim to be, but I've read that if you lose anywhere between 3 and 5% of your body weight, that shows like dehydration. So if that were to happen during those first 8 hours, I think they'd have to stop the test. But anyhow, so you do those 8 hours, you're not allowed to eat or drink anything at all. So the drinking would be the difficult part for me. I got lost again. So drinking, yeah, so no eating, drinking, first 8 hours. After 8 hours, I think they give you an injection, and then after that you're allowed to eat and drink freely for the next 4 hours, and then after that you're allowed to go home. Test is done. So that's the way it should go, textbook style, but whether it does or not, it remains to be seen. Another test they want me to go for, sorry, I'm reading it from my notebook, is an oral glucose tolerance test. So with that one, what happens is you have like a glucose drink, really like sugary sweet drink. I think it's about 75 mils they give you that you've got to drink. And so I've got to have that done. That one, Oh, that one is actually for the, not just to test for diabetes, but to test the Igf-I, so the growth hormone factor, insulin growth hormone factor 1. So that's what my endocrinologist keeps mentioning, you know, that those levels are quite high. So apparently this test here, this glucose tolerance test, will be able to say with some accuracy whether it's to do with a pituitary tumour, which is still, from speaking to her yesterday, still definitely the main line she is going down at the moment. So so I've got those 2 tests, and then lastly, with the glucose tolerance test, what happens at that one is they give you that sugary glucose drink, and then every half hour for the next 2 hours they take bloods, because I think it's something along the lines of, with the growth factor hormone, what should happen if it isn't raised in a normal person and without a pituitary tumour, what should happen is when you have that glucose drink, I think it's meant to push your growth hormone factor down in its level, and if it doesn't go down when you've had that drink and they test you every half hour in those 2 hours, it doesn't go down, that's basically confirmation of I'm so sorry, basically confirmation of, yeah, that the growth hormone factor is too high, which is usually caused by a pituitary tumour. And last test that I've got to have done will just be, she said, a head scan. Now I'm assuming that would be an MRI, although of course it could be a CT. So I don't know for sure about that one, but as soon as I do know, I will let you know. So that's basically it. There were a few other things that I sort of thought about with the growth hormone thing, because she asked if I'd noticed any changes, and at the time I said no, because it hadn't really occurred to me. Like, I don't think things were adding up, like the dots weren't being connected until she mentioned that, and not even then. It's since like having time to think about it and sort of obsess over it a little bit, I suppose, where I've had time on my hands. So I did actually think, you know, my shoulders actually did get kind of a little wide, like as a teen. Don't know if you can see. Oh gosh, messy top. But like, they are a little wide, I suppose, wider than they used to be. At about 17, 18, I noticed that they were a bit wider than my friends who were female. So I don't know if that's normal or if it could be to do with this growth hormone thing. My tongue does feel too big for my mouth, to the extent that I will actually get, I think I've mentioned this before, I will get blisters, ulcers, blood blisters just along the side of my tongue, and sometimes inside my cheek. It just feels like there's too much fat in my cheeks and too much fat in my tongue, basically, is the only way I can describe it. Or too much tissue would probably be more medically accurate. So yeah, I had noticed that. Also, my teeth are a little kind of like squash. I don't want to show at the moment because, like, I'm an ex-smoker, so I'm a little self-conscious about my teeth. But basically, along the bottom there, they are sort of like a little bit crowded, sort of a little. And these top two teeth, there. One overlaps just a little, and it never used to. Like maybe about 5 years ago, I noticed it. Probably 5 to 8 years ago, I noticed that. Oh, like when did that happen? What's going on there? So yeah, other than that, I think, just going to check my little notebook again. The last video was ever so long. I do apologise. I just got a little bit carried away and didn't notice the time. So I'm going to make sure my videos are around the 20-minute mark or a little shorter, just so it's easier on the ear. Because, yeah, I could be annoying. Let's see. So I did mention to her, my endocrinologist, that my memory has been getting much worse, to the extent, and I can't remember if I discussed this before. I don't think I did, but I can't remember. But basically, when I was making a cup of tea, a few times this has happened. I don't know if it's probably classed as either absent-mindedness or zoning out. I don't know which it would be classed as, but basically I was making a cup of tea. This happened a few times now, and as I'm pouring the water, it's like my brain just goes elsewhere. It's not even really thinking of anything in particular. It's just, I don't know, it's like turning into a zombie for about, I don't know, 3 or 4 seconds, and then it's bam, back to reality again. So, oh, what happened there? But that was as I was pouring the hot water, so it got over the side and everything, created a bit of a mess, because it was I was making tea, but it was the coffee that it happened with, so that, yeah, that made a bit of a mess both times. And then later that week, I was in the bath, shaving my legs, and, you know the little back bit that is a bit, you know, if you're female, you know for sure that, is a bit that tends to get cut. Well, I'm usually good at not doing that, but again, shaving my legs, and then I just sort of went again, sort of this absent-minded zoning out thing, and I cut the back of my leg, and then it was that. I was like, oh, what's happened? But yeah, so things like that happening a lot, and it's so difficult to concentrate on a conversation or on anything generally. I have to try really, really hard to focus. It's really difficult to focus on anything, and my recollection isn't good at all either, so it is worrying. I do hope that whatever the results are, whatever they just, you know, settle upon that's wrong, I do hope my cognitive function does improve. But then I don't know how much that's to do with this, if it is a pituitary tumour, or Addison's, or even fibromyalgia. But my bipolar, I know that contributes to the cognitive difficulties. But it just seems that it's been in decline, and more so recently, because I think I began to notice it getting really bad, like really, really bad, after my cat, so like when he was ill, so I'd say probably like November time. So, but obviously I've been in a sort of, yeah, hypomanic, but not having the energy behind it, but having the pressured speech, ideas and thoughts and talking, flitting and floating, like blah, 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 here, there and everywhere. Not being able to stay focused and everything as well. Just sort of the thought process and the talking of hypomania, and I guess mood as well. Yeah, just the only thing is just no energy in my body, so, which is awful. So I've been, like, I'd say probably rapid cycling from, I think I mentioned this before as well, yeah, I do, so up down 10-12 times a day, easy. But I think it's lessening a little now it's more, I think I mentioned this before as well, like a dulled down hypomania. So like at the moment, oh gosh, like at this precise exact moment, I would say that it's just sort of ever so slightly, but not to the extent where it's like I sound like I'm on drugs or anything, which it can do at times, certain points in the day. It's like verbal, it's like rah, yeah, and sometimes I have to repeat myself because I'm speaking too fast, and even I don't even hear what I've just said. It's like, oh no. But I'm getting tired talking myself, you know, and I'm starting to get even more tired than usual. So I know that the depressive side is probably going to start being a little bit more in the forefront instead of the hypomania. I can feel that shift already, that I'm more time in sort of mild depression, and then just going into hypomania at points in the day now, rather than it being the opposite way round as it had been for months. So I do speak to my psychiatrist on the 3rd of May, so I am going to ask still for that mood stabiliser, weight neutral of course, hopefully lamotrigine if they allow me to, or Lamictal I think they call it in America and some other countries. So that's the one I want to try again. Okay, so as far as medication goes, I don't know if my psychiatrist will actually change anything that I'm on. I'm hoping not, because although the risperidone, it's stopped the psychosis rearing its head, because by now, I mean, what are we in? So November, December, January, February, March, almost April, so 5 months, like in mostly a state of hypomania and then rapid cycling. That's a long time, and usually by month 2 I've gone into full-blown psychosis with it. So I'm happy with the risperidone that it has kept the psychosis at bay, but it's not doing enough with the mild mood stabilising effect it has at all, no. So still definitely going to get that sorted. I didn't actually write like a list of what to say this time round, so and also it was just mostly a quick update. But if I hear anything, I should be getting those appointments through in the post very soon. What I'll do is probably catch up with you again in a week or so, or beforehand if I've any further information, or if I have any appointments that are like set up that quickly, I will let you know how that goes. Or if I speak to Endocrinology, I'll let you know how that goes too. And when my bloods come back, but they can take sometimes a little longer because they're specialised blood tests, so they don't just take the 2-3 days. I think they take closer to 1 week, perhaps 2. I'm not actually sure, but I know they take over a week sometimes. But thank you all for listening. It's nice to see you all again, even though there's probably only a few viewers at the moment, but I'm sure we can get that view up there. Thanks again. Look forward to speaking to you. If you've any questions, suggestions, comments, anything along that nature, or you just want to say hi, just pop a comment down below and I will reply. Thank you. and take care. Bye.